It's happening. Patrik Laine seems to be ready to go as he posts an update on his Instagram, and the Montreal Canadiens send Joshua Roy down to Laval. All signs indicate Patrik Laine will be making his season debut against the New York Islanders. We got to dive into all of this, the implications it has on the Habs lineup, and what some future moves might be for Montreal, what lines are going to play with who, where Laine is going to play. There's a bunch of exciting stuff, but it doesn't stop there, Jesse. We got a lot of topics to cover today, including some talk on the David Jiricek trade and some updates that indicate Montreal may not have even been one of the true finalists for this deal. We got to talk about the Habs quarter season review, some cool stats on Emil Heineman and Josh Anderson, and much more. We got a lot of stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. How could I forget Jeff Gorton punching a wall? There's a ton of stuff to get into. Jesse, are you excited for this wonderful Monday night live stream?
Just like Jeff Gorton, I'm fired up because we got for good reasons this time though. We got Patrik Laine coming back into the lineup just tomorrow. Like, we're close to getting within the 24 hours of the Patrik Laine watch of him returning. So it's imminent, folks. It's getting here. You have to feel like he's going to hit the ground running. We get that, there might be a little bit of rust, but this guy, he hasn't just played not just missing time this year, it's last year as well. So you have to feel like he wants to be in Montreal. The skill that he has. We got him pegged for multiple goals tomorrow night here at Habs Digest.
Can't wait. We'll be breaking that down a little bit further in the show. But hey, Patrik Laine, we want him in Montreal, and maybe if you want to spend some time in Montreal too, you want to find a new place, Rentals.ca got you covered, guys. Rentals.ca has been a proud supporter of this channel. You guys know him, you love him, hopefully. They've been a proud supporter of Team Canada. They want you to help find your new home ice all across the country.
Amazing supporters of this channel from, whether you're living in Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, Winnipeg, rentals.ca has you covered. Check them out, guys, because they're an amazing company. They have an amazing website with the best listings in Canada where you can go to your city or the city where you want to move to. Not only that, find the neighborhood, which really interests you the most. And from there, you're able to see amazing listings right in that location.
Find your new home ice. I messed up with rentals.ca. Check out their website. I pinned the comment in the stream. It'll be in the description. And if you're watching this after, it should be a pinned comment as well. Shout out to them for supporting the channel. And like we always tell you guys, we love the product. It's something we have genuinely used. And if you are looking to find your new home ice, check out rentals.ca. Jesse, there's a lot of stuff we got to get into this video. The fans are excited. I promise we'll get into Patrik Laine coming up later. But you got to stick around a little bit for that. First things first, though, there were some interesting stats that we saw today, and there was one that caught my attention, Jesse, and it has to do with some speed of some players. Nope, not Patrik. This year. So this is posted by JFresh. JFresh is amazing, of course. Fastest NHL forwards of the first quarter of 2024-25. Top speed, no Habs there. However, speed bursts above 20 miles per hour per 60 minutes. You see Josh Anderson right there at 10th place in the top 10. And in speed bursts above 22 miles per hour per 60 minutes, you see both Josh Anderson and Emil Heineman in the top 10. I don't know, Jesse, we kind of peg Newhook as maybe the fastest skater on the team, but to see Anderson and Heineman be near the top of these lists, I just thought it was too cool not to show the fans.
Definitely. And the fact that Guhle is there, maybe now Guhle's getting surpassed by Heineman, by Anderson as the quickest players on this team, right? So very interesting to see, Heineman's doing so many things right. He's bringing that speed in on the forecheck. So nice to see him, get some love here with, some very good players in the NHL.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool thing. Just love those stats there. I just wanted to start the stream with something really exciting. And again, stick around for the good stuff. But I do also want to give a shout out to all our wonderful channel members here in the chat. And for everyone that's in here, people saying they wish Laine a healthy season. We got a lot of people who are pumped. We got Frank in here saying, hey, we got Tyler, channel member. I want to see Suzuki Cole Laine. We'll be looking at that. Joseph, he may be back tomorrow. It's looking like he probably will be. Dach Slafkovsky for line 2. Dach. That could be interesting. Yeah, I hope we get some game time. We got Brian in here. Rocket Richard, remember. What's up, Brian? Good to see you in here. Joseph Donovan, crossed fingers and toes. Tim Meunier, I think. I sure hope this lights a spark for the team. I feel we need to play a better defensive game. Hybrid system isn't working. It might work with due time. We'll have to wait and see. There's some ups and some downs. Montreal, Jesse, in November compared to October in terms of expected goals against at even strength, they made a significant improvement. So I think it's too early for me to say the hybrid system's failing yet, because we've seen a big improvement. It's just yet to see. We're not even at Christmas yet. Francis saying, hey bros, hope everything's good. Everything's great, Francis. Hope everything's good with you too. Joseph saying, smash that like for Patty and Habs Nation. Love this show, makes me excited. My favorite Habs show. My gosh, everyone in the chat's so excited, Jesse, so happy. I can't believe this. Any quick thoughts on that hybrid defense system? Just something I read. I think it's too early to take any conclusions yet. I think it's still a young team, but I think we're seeing improvements.
Yeah, well, we saw some stats, where they were going for 30th in the league against goals against. We got that to about 9th, in the NHL until very recently, which is fairly respectable. Obviously, a couple games, maybe hurting that a little bit, but it's interesting, right? Where, there is showing some positive growth. So you're right, Josh, like too early to judge it. It's just sometimes you do sometimes think like, okay, maybe this system works. It's like they say, oh, it's work with cup winners, but cup winners definitely have a lot more vets. With a system that takes a little bit more thinking, sometimes when you have more experienced players and not being the second youngest team in the NHL like the Montreal Canadiens is, maybe that system lends itself to a little bit more of an experienced team that can really kind of handle it there. That being said, we saw some huge improvements, so I think we need a little bit more of a sample size because we have seen some positive things. We know it's all about just keeping it consistent at this point.
Yeah, the optics are not great at some points with some of the bad defense, but overall, when you take the larger sample size, there are big improvements, and that's what we have to look at when we're looking towards the future. Like single bad games here and there are going to happen no matter what. So I'm really excited. So let's dive into the next topic really quick, Jesse. And actually, I'm going to save the quarter season review mark for a little bit later because I think that's going to be interesting. In the meantime, I wanted to just get the fans' opinion because this is another kind of quick hitter thing. We obviously saw that David Jiricek was traded from the Columbus Blue Jackets to the Minnesota Wild, my other team, as I often like to say. And the return was pretty hefty. I mean, it was a conditional first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and a fourth-round pick, and Damon Hunt for David Jiricek, and a fifth-round pick. Some fans saying this is an overpay for Minnesota. I personally think it's a great deal for Minnesota because you're giving up a late first-round pick and some other picks that probably won't be impact NHLers for a guy that was drafted 6th overall just a couple of years ago, who still has incredible NHL potential. But the big thing, Jesse, is that there are now rumors coming out that the Columbus Blue Jackets and Don Waddell did not want to move Jiricek to an Eastern Conference team. So it seems like Montreal wasn't even necessarily in the race. And honestly, at this price, while I think that's a reasonable trade for a team like Minnesota, who is bridging this gap between their current sort of veteran, semi-veterans, but have this young team that's going to be competitive for a long, long time, Montreal, I think, is just a little bit before this window. But at this price, I don't know. What did you think when you saw this compared to what we thought Montreal may have to give up for?
They got a pretty good haul for him, and it kind of speaks to the fact that sometimes selling high on your prospects, sometimes selling early is an okay thing. We know that sometimes it's okay to hold on to them, but sometimes that trade value can definitely kind of go down as a result. So they're definitely selling high at this point in time, but it seems like two things for the Habs here is like they're outbid. Secondly, that Don Waddell, in this case here, did not want to trade, to an Eastern Conference team, which you do get sometimes as well. So, but at the same time, it's like, while they're getting an impact player, but with sometimes we know that while picks don't always pan out, we have to always remember, like there is those gold, like Kaprizov was a 5th round pick. We saw that even Hudson's a 2nd round pick. So you can definitely, while it's kind of the exception to the norm in these situations, that definitely gold can be found in these picks for sure. But, I think, definitely the Montreal Canadiens at that price was just a little bit too steep.
Yeah, I think so, maybe. Like, again, I actually think it's a reasonable price to pay for what he is, and especially for what he gives Minnesota going forward. Not going to turn this into a big Minnesota thing, but, like, you have Faber and Jiricek in theory in your top 4, and then you have Brodin, and you have Boyum on the left side. It could work long-term, but I just put up a poll in the chat, and I want you guys to all let us know, would you have paid that price for David Jiricek, seeing what Minnesota paid for him? And the early results of this poll is very, very heavy no from the fans here. They did not want to pay that price for Jiricek. Again, like, I think in terms of on-ice product, whatever, he had almost 40 points in his D+1 year in the AHL. He's a big 6'4" right-hand shot defenseman with great draft pedigree. I remember saying, Jesse, like, I think the price for him is actually going to be higher than people expect because of how rare it is to get a solid right-hand defenseman, and also how rare it is to get a solid high draft pedigree, former 6th overall pick right-hand defenseman just a couple years after he was drafted. In my, like, the way I see it is like they gave up what's probably going to be a late first and a bunch of like other picks to basically draft him in a sense, and I think it kind of makes sense if you look at it that way.
It does for sure. And especially when you're listing that pairings that they have, they're looking to really kind of build for the future. And they got Faber. Now they're getting kind of another young guy that he can really kind of pair with and kind of grow. So there is a larger play at work, for Minnesota. It's kind of same thing with Montreal, where it does make sense, where we got a little bit of that younger core there. So at the same time, I think that, definitely, it's a good move for Minnesota, but I think Kent Hughes, this was just, him, he's got his parameters. And he definitely, I think it was just a little bit too much for him there.
And like also, Minnesota doesn't have a guy like a Mayu or a guy like Reinbacher in that system, right?
That's it.
Jiricek
Exactly.
kind of fills that role for them, whereas Montreal already has a couple guys who do exactly. And I mean, they're different play styles, all three of them to some extent. But Jiricek, one of his better comparables in terms of prospects is Mayu. He's kind of like seen as a little bit better Mayu, who's a bit more solid, but with a bit worse skating, right? So there's some interesting things there. But the overwhelming thing here, I'm going to end that poll real quick because I don't think we need to see any more details. No, you guys did not want to pay. 85% of people said no with 54 votes. I think we might just be on board with you in this case. But Jesse, let's move on. And I want to talk next about our boy, Jeff. Jeff Gorton. Now, this is very interesting. So, Arber Basu, a few days ago, actually, after the New York Rangers game, and we saved this for today, because I saw it making the rounds on social media today as well. I read this the other day, but I think this is a good live stream thing, not necessarily a good video topic. But here's a quote from Arben's article. The Habs clearly felt random circumstances, referees, against the New York Rangers on Saturday. At the end of the game, Canadiens Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations and former Rangers GM Jeff Gorton came walking toward an elevator full of reporters. Canadiens hockey operations staff and a couple of Rangers assistant coaches. He was so angry that he did not take who was in the elevator into account. He probably didn't even see them as he punched the wall. I missed the part where he punched the wall. The whole point of this quote was that he punched the wall. Anyway, you're gonna have to trust me. The article's linked in the description. He punched a wall. He just walked up and just punched the wall and said one thing about the random circumstances that are the refs. Jesse, I just wanted to bring this up because this just shows, I mean, obviously losing to the Rangers is going to hurt Jeff Gorton more than most, but this to me just shows how fired up not only the Habs and the coaching staff, but the management is about this team and how much they want this team to be even better. This wasn't about any singular player. This was a bit about the rest, but it was also about losing to the team that he used to manage, the team that Montreal should have beaten in that game in one of their best games of the season, and I love to see that kind of fire.
And it's because it was a game that was right in our grasp. Like we're right there. There was a moment you fight to come back despite all the different obstacles what we're having to tie that game and then to kind of lose it late. And believe me, it wasn't just the refs. There was some other factors as well. There was kind of some young players, that I think that Hughes wants and Gordon and company want more from in this situation. But couldn't you just see this happening? Like, he's lucky he didn't kind of hurt that elevator, right? Because this is a big guy when he's hitting that wall. Like, he's rattling. But I want to see that energy sometimes from this Habs. Like, I think that it does have a place to show the passion because us as fans, as viewers, as people that report on the team, we're passionate. We care. It matters to us what type of product that they're putting on the ice, whether it's rebuilding or not. I think just what we always demand is that passion is there. And I'm not saying that that's what the issue was in that New York Rangers game, right? But we want to see, that the management really cares about, the team. Because I think that that's the most important thing right now. We're seeing some things like we went through this rebuild. It's been a long time. So we're seeing some things from this Habs team. Like, we got a lot of pride that we haven't seen a lot of. So I think it's only right to kind of get out of rise out of the people that care the most about this team, obviously to look to kind of correct the ship.
I think it's a good thing going forward, not a good thing for his hand. And, expressions of violence like that aren't always necessarily the best solutions. But, in this case, I heard that Elevator is currently on LTIR. I think the Rangers are waiting to activate him until they're waiting until the playoffs. They're going to do some cap circumvention with Elevator 2. But, some really interesting stuff from Jeff Gorton. Dude was mad. So just wanted to give you guys that little update as well. As we got a super chat, Jesse, and it's Doug Saylor. Guys, leave some likes on Doug's comment there. We only got one. We can get that number up. Really, really appreciate the support, Doug. Rocket Richard, to remember, we talk to Doug all the time. Doug, we had a great chat about the Survivor Series the other day. It was really, really nice. Hey guys, glad I was in time for the stream. Go Habs. Welcome in, Doug. Great to talk to you as always. And we also got Jesse Joseph Donovan gifting a Habs Digest membership. And Tyler Liverpool, if you're there in the chat and you can hear me, you have been gifted a membership. Feel free to claim that. You get some perks. You get the little emoticons that we have in chat. The Kirby, the Suzuki, the Slavzilla, the Demigod, the Lane Train. There's so much you can do with it. We got a couple members-only videos on the channel. If you want to go back and watch those, we'll read your chats in priority order. Really appreciate it. We got Super Gujan saying good day, guys. Welcome in, everyone. We got a lot of people also debating the team right now, Jesse. People in the chat, kind of going in on certain players. They're pretty negative on some guys, but we want to keep this air of positivity. And I also want to take a moment. There was a lot of stuff going around on social media the past couple days around Kirby Dach, and today especially, there has been a big push to be positive and encourage Kirby Dach. And I wanted to to just say that on the stream as well publicly in front of almost 300 of you guys. Let's just give all our encouragement to this team. Yeah, some people are not playing well, but no one, under no circumstances, should go talk to DM players, leave mean comments, stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes we wish they'd play better, but let's encourage them to get there. I think spreading that positivity, that's a big message we have here at Habs Digest, and it's been something we've seen on social media today, Jesse, and I think just encouraging these guys, trying to get the best out of them is something that we all should do as fans.
And it'll serve us well in the long run. It's all about really kind of being patient with this. But sometimes, to really do something right, in order to build that beautiful home, you need that proper foundation. You take a little bit more time to really do it right. And all the work, it's always in that prep, right? It's always in those last little bits where you put up the drywall. Everything's coming together quick. It's always kind of the process where all the work is really be found. Kirby Dach, he's going through it right now, but all of it is going to be well worth it in the end to really do this right. I think that Kent Hughes has given us so many reasons to really trust him, and I think he's really got the best of this team, in mind, and I fully expect him to completely execute on that.
Absolutely. By the power of the Mitchell Stevens stick, this is all going to go to plan. If you guys are not familiar with the Mitchell Stevens stick, this is the official good luck charm of Habs Digest right now. You notice it wasn't in the last couple videos because Montreal lost the game. This is the good luck Mitchell Stevens stick. Yes, I bought the mystery box from Tricolore Sport. They gave me a game used. You can tell this thing's game used. By the way, it's a beautiful stick. I don't play hockey at all, but this is a real nice stick. Solid tape job there, Mitchell. Habs legend Mitchell Stevens got this game used stick. We're bringing it in frame. So I just want you guys to send some love for the Mitchell Stevens stick and just appreciate the greatness that is sitting behind me for these videos. It's going to bring good fortune to this franchise, I promise. But you guys got to also be bought in on this Mitchell Stevens stick as well. So I really appreciate that. Jesse, I think it's time to get into a segment that we've been looking forward to doing. And we're just past the quarter way of the season right now. And it's a good thing to take a look back at what Montreal has been at the start of the season. Obviously, we talked about the jump they made from October to November. But I think it's time to get into some little awards. And we have 3 awards that we want to discuss and vote on with you guys. And ultimately, you guys will decide who the winners of all these things are. So we will start with a couple of polls. Jesse, the first thing I want to do, we want to stay positive with all these things. I want to start with a surprise player of the year. We'll save our other 2 awards for a second after. But I'm going to go to our surprise player of the year. And I'm going to get the poll ready, so I'm not going to show you guys. But there have been some players this year, Jesse, that have been exceeding expectations. Guys that kind of came out of nowhere, or maybe didn't even come out of nowhere, but have shown that they've gotten to another level. And I want to get the fans' opinions on this. Now, let me just type up this poll. But I want to ask you, in your mind, of the guys that we have here, which guy do you think has stood out the most to you in terms of man, because I got my answer. This guy has exceeded what I ever thought he could do this season.
Laine Hutson. I knew that he was going to be good. I had full belief. I never thought that he would just be a power play specialist. I thought that this guy would just find a way to be able to make it happen at the NHL. And he's just been able to do that. And the reason why it's the surprise is he's been good, but even better than we expect, but kind of bring it defensively. I knew him as that skill guy, but it's never until kind of watching him so regular, studying his game, where I'm seeing the amount of heart that this guy has, for me, in every facet, it's Laine Hutson.
That's actually a really interesting answer. And I think Laine Hutson is a fantastic answer. And I think a lot of people will probably agree with that, because it's hard to disagree with anything you just said. This guy, we had high expectations for him, but he has come in and been a bona fide offensive engine for a lot of this season for Montreal. As we get another super chat from Joseph Donovan for $5 saying, let's get hyped for Patrik Laine. Go Habs, go. Well, Joseph, we will be talking about Patrik Laine coming up in just a bit, and I promise we'll get to that. But we got to get to these awards. Right. But Jesse, my answer here simply is, so far, I actually think my answer is Brendan Gallagher, and let me just explain why. Because I think a lot of Habs fans got reserved to the fact over the past couple of years, it's look, Gally's not what he once was. He's one of these 10 to 15 goal, 20, 30, 35, maybe 40 point guys at this point. He's cost a lot of money, but we love him. He's great. He deserves every penny he's ever made. But he's come out this season and has been one of the best offensive players for Montreal all year. He has 8 goals. He has been one of their main offensive juggernauts for this team, and the effort, we know that's never been in question, but I think that's been playing a lot into his game this year. And for me, I think that's just my answer. And again, you can't go wrong with anyone on the list here. The other 2 guys, like the guy that's leading the vote right now among the fans is Emil Heineman, which I think is an amazing answer as well, because he's come out, he's on a 20-plus goal pace as a guy that we thought maybe wouldn't even make the team out of camp. We thought he would barely get any minutes, but he proved himself out of camp. Him and Kaiden made the team, right? And he came into play. And we also got Josh Anderson, while only getting 1 or 2% of the poll vote right now, Jesse. He has reinvented himself. He's on like a 35, 40-ish point pace, and he has been amazing defensively, finding a new role in the penalty kill. So to me, looking at these guys, like, it's hard to say any one of these guys, but as you can see, like Hudson, Heineman, and Gallagher are all getting their fair share of the vote. But it's always really good when you have this many guys that you could genuinely make a case for as they've exceeded expectations.
Yeah, Heineman is absolutely kind of out of left field, playing so well, because we saw him kind of come up and play a couple times early on with the Montreal Canadiens last year. Could never quite kind of stick in a lot of ways, but looking back, obviously, that's this kind of normal progression, right? Of getting your feet wet. It's such a great example of kind of being patient sometimes with prospects and players, as they might need a couple looks at the NHL before they come in and really get their groove. Because we always saw, like, from Heineman, we knew he had a great shot. It's not really like a big surprise to us, but he's, somebody like Yelainen had a great shot too, and Heineman's been somebody that's been able to separate himself, right?
Shootout master.
But it's that physical style of play right now, which is like doing that as well as, as laying the body as well, which, absolutely Gallagher's like such an amazing story. I think like honorable mention all the same is to Guhle. Like, it's not so much of a surprise as just like an actual natural development where we see like where he would get better, where he would take steps up in different ways, in tangible ways, kind of being a jack of all trades for this Montreal Canadiens team in so many ways. Johnny on the spot, for lack of other terms here. It's like Kaiden Guhle just really does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, what about Cole Caufield post-shoulder surgery? I mean, I wouldn't say it was a surprise. I think this is what we expected, although I don't know if we expected a 55-goal pace. But, this kind of goal scoring I think we did expect. But, Jesse, we got a big super chat from Dan L. $20. Thank you so much, channel member Dan. Really, really appreciate it. Simply says, Gally from Masterton Trophy. Pure will and determination. Brendan Gallagher has been the epitome of that his whole career, right? And also maybe a little bit of an annoyance, a little bit of a pest for a lot of other teams, but it's been awesome. And like even Steven says here, Gally's just playing to form, no longer injured, also learning how to follow the play versus leading the play. There's so many good things going on right now, Jesse. I really appreciate that message from Dan. But yeah, that's the thing, Jesse. It's always been energy and determination, will with him, and he's been healthy for the first time in a while, and he's really starting to click.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so happy to see it too, because if there's one guy you really want to succeed, and he's one of those guys where he is providing that example on this young team that they really, really need right now. And he's getting rewarded as well, Gallagher. So it has to feel great for him, and obviously we just always wish the best for Gallagher, one of our favorites here at Habs Digest.
For sure. It's been an amazing season. So final results of that first poll. Heineman takes it. The fans vote Emil Heineman as the surprise player of the year with 42% of the vote. Brendan Gallagher coming in a close second at 36%. Lane Hudson coming in at 9%. And Josh Anderson coming in at 2%. Once again, that does not add up to 100%. I don't know why Google or YouTube has still not fixed that issue. But we'll move on, Jesse, to the next one here. And the next poll I wanted to talk about is the player with the most room for improvement. I don't want to frame this in a negative way, because there's a lot of guys that we know are good and we know can be better. And I want to give these guys a shot to really, really improve. And let's have a look at, there's some guys on this team, right? We talk a lot about Kirby, Dach. Matheson, though he's been good, there's been a lot of fans who have turned against him. Is there any player that for you has a lot of, maybe not even a lot of room to improve, but who really has an opportunity over the next 3 quarters of the season to get back into form, or to get into a form where they can prove to us and everyone else, like, yeah, this is why I'm on this team?
It would have to be Docker, for sure. And the reason why it's not Matheson is, like, when you're more of an established player, it's not so much more improvements as just being the type of player you are. And that's the thing with Matheson right now, which is, for me, is kind of the question is, like, I think the turnovers and things like that's just a part of his game where he's going to get you points, but he's going to cost you the turnovers. There's a certain point, like in a player's career, where it says, for a large extent, that is the type of player that they are. Now, Kirby Dach has a chance. Like, his NHL career isn't completely written, but it's starting to get there. Like, he's got 1 or 2 seasons to really define himself, and that's going to end up being who he really becomes in the NHL. I think it's not so much like improvement for Matheson because he's already kind of established there. I think Docker, like, just because he has such a high ceiling, for sure. We know what he's capable of. We know what he can do. And I think that's what's the most frustrating is like, we know, like, we want to like will him to success. We know that it's all there. It's just about kind of putting it all together, which, to be honest, I think that he'll get a chance. Even if he doesn't end up being like an all-star player, I think there's still a very strong likelihood that Kirby Dach ends up becoming a very good player. Just need to be patient. We see even like Connor Bedard, he's not having the best second year in the NHL. Kind of apples to oranges a little bit comparison here, but just to say the point of like that, the trajectory with players, no matter what their pedigree, it can be up and down at certain times. And it's about kind of, those third and fourth years. That's when you really get the true vision of the player.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's another guy we could have added to this list in Slafkovsky, and we decided not to, because like his effort has been there. He has had some down moments for sure. I think Slav could be on this list as well, but he's still on like a reasonable point pace. But he's looked a lot better as of late. It's hard to just narrow this down to 4. Like, Dvorak has been a guy who we've talked about all season. Maybe even Slav could go in for Matheson. That's actually something we could do. But at the end of the day, Jesse, I don't even think we need to leave this up for very long. The overwhelming majority say it is Kirby Dach. Maybe if Slav was there, maybe if we had modified the poll a bit, it would have changed a bit, but I think Kirby Dach is the number one guy here. We got some people saying remove Primeau from the poll. He's clearly not NHL ready. He was NHL ready last year. I mean, we saw some real brilliant flashes from him last year. He had a wonderful third period in the last game he played. I don't think he's been great. I think he's like a lower tier backup right now. I wouldn't say he's not NHL ready, but he definitely hasn't been playing good this season, which is why I think that he can get back to where he was. But Jesse, I'm in complete agreement with you. Kirby Dach, the flashes of brilliance are there. I love watching Kirby Dach play when he's on. I really hope the best for him. And again, guys, like, we want to just share all our positivity for him and all these Habs players that are maybe underperforming relative to expectations, because what better way to motivate these guys? Let's show them that we got their back. We got Kirby Dach's back. This guy has the potential to be something really, really nice for this team for a long time. So really hoping that that Kirby Dach, people don't agree that that Primeau is an NHL caliber player. Okay, my goodness. I mean, look, he's had a bad season, but my gosh, to say Dobesh is better right now, we don't know that. I mean, don't forget, Primeau had amazing stats in the AHL. Primeau had phenomenal stats in college. He had good stats everywhere he went, even last season in the NHL. Dobesh has a year and a half of solid Laval stats. I'm just saying, like, I think sometimes the expectations are set way too high for people, and I think there's no need to replace Primeau right now, but we're not going to hang on to that. Because, Jesse, it's time to get into the most valuable player section. Are you excited for this one? I'm excited for this one.
I am. Let's do it. Let's get it.
Let's do it. Most valuable player. I know some people are going to have their opinions. Who is the MVP so far? We're gonna toss some names in here, and I think you guys all know the names that are probably going to come in here. But here's the thing, Jesse. There's so many names I wish I could put in here. Like, man, like, there's a name here that I don't include, and that's Cayden Guhle. And because I don't think he's been the most valuable player for Montreal, but it feels almost tough to not have him on this list. But I think the 4 that we got here are reasonable. So let's start it. The 4 options we got are Caufield, Suzuki, Hudson, and Gallagher. Now, Hudson has had some ups and downs, but let's be honest, the dude's offensive production has been amazing, and he has looked like a star from day one for Montreal. Though you could argue Guhle's had a bigger impact, but for me, Jesse, there's no question here. So far this season, the MVP is Cole Caufield. He's the guy who's up there near the league lead in goals, 16 goals on the season. This guy's come back from shoulder surgery looking better than ever. This team is nowhere if not for Cole Caufield's goal scoring this year. And you could say some of the same things for someone like a Gallagher. Suzuki is producing at almost a point per game pace. He's just 1 point behind. But I can't possibly really wrap my head around anyone else other than Cole right now. You could definitely make arguments, but he's my guy.
He is, and he's done some amazing production in the NHL, 28 goals last year, but kind of finding his way. Now, this is the year, I think, where he's establishing himself, and minus a little hiccup or some injuries here and there, I think this is the new Cole Caufield that we're really coming to expect, which is absolutely phenomenal to have this level of a player, from a 13th overall pick, have him turn out like, basically like a top 5 guy in many a redraft, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, and, for Cole and Nick to be at the head of this, I think it makes sense. They've combined for 25 goals so far this season. The rest of the Montreal Canadiens have combined for 43. So it means that Cole and Nick are providing well over 50% of the entire offense for the entire Canadiens. So this is why it's so interesting with Patrik Laine coming back. You can maybe say having him on that first line, which does make a lot of sense, put your players best position to succeed. But if you're looking for a kind of that punch with Slav, with the dog kind of there, to get another tandem going, because we know that Cole and Nick can cook together, right? But I think there's an argument, even though Laine would do so well on that top line, to get something else going, because that's been our Achilles heel this whole season. Obviously is the 2C for many reasons for that injury, for lack of a center that's kind of fitting that role right now there. But yeah, no, without a doubt, it is Cole Caufield, and I'm completely ecstatic. I love like just his dog mentality in the game, where this guy, he's smaller, but he's looking to score. He cares. You know, he's a tough, smaller guy, but super tough. So many things to love about him.
We got a lot of people. We got Frank saying Guhle first and Suzuki second. We got Dan saying it's Cole and Nick, and I think that's reasonable too, because Nick Suzuki does a lot more than just score goals. I mean, it's nice to see that goal scoring total, but Suzuki does a bit of everything, and while his 5v5 defensive metrics especially have not been great this year, a lot of that is because of the Habs' lackluster defense. So I think Suzuki has had a very solid year so far as well. And it's how can you say it's not Suzuki, the guy who's 22 points in 23 games, I think, or 23 and 24, something like that. So the dude has been rolling. But watching Cole Caufield swing the momentum of games on his own, and doesn't it feel like a bit of a fever dream that he was not on the first line for a handful of games there? Like, he was playing with Jake Evans for a bunch of games, and he was still scoring goals, and he was showing chemistry there. Now with Laine back, Jesse, this is the one thing, we're this high on Caufield, but like you even said, imagine bringing in another guy with that caliber of goal scoring, that caliber of shot, back into this line. Well, I guess into this lineup really for the first time in the regular season. I think it's going to be such a huge boost.
Yeah, it's exactly what we need, right? Just to not have the defense from another team just being able to really focus on one line and shut everything down as a result. We're still missing that 2C in a lot of ways, but with a healthy Laine in our lineup, it starts to make the semblance of a pretty good top six if Dach can get things going, if Slav can get things going. And that's kind of the X factors in all this. Because for me, I think that Laine's coming in hot. We know the skill that he has. And for me, his willingness to play is really high. He chose Montreal. He wants to be here. He likes the city. He likes Martin St. Louis. He likes his teammates, the job, the team. And you guys, the fans, have done such a great job of making him feel so welcome. He wants to hit the ground running, So I feel like he's definitely going to be there to bring it. If Slav and Kirby can be the players that we know that they can be, folks, that is a solid top six right there.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. By the way, Nick Suzuki is point per game. I forgot that he got that 2 points. So he has 24 points, 9 goals, 24 points in 24 games. Hard to say he's not MVP, but the poll speaks the same thing as we do, Jesse. It's Cole Caufield at 59%. You guys have voted him the MVP so far. Nick Suzuki, 19%. Brendan Gallagher, 14%, not far behind Suzuki. And Lane Hudson coming up the rear with 6%. So we got a lot of opportunity for improvement with Dach, but we are sending nothing but love for him. And I know you guys will follow us on that. Let's make sure we give all the love we can to Kirby, Dach, and everyone, again, who is underperforming by our standards. Nick Suzuki playing amazing as well. But it's Cole Caufield MVP. Dach for some much-needed improvement that we're excited to see, and Emil Heineman being the surprise player of the year. Thank you guys so much for that vote. That was a ton of fun. And before we get into the Patrik Laine stuff, we have finally gotten here. Stick around for it. All I'm going to ask is if you guys could just hit the like button. That's all I'm asking. I want to see if that can hit 100 likes. We'd really appreciate it. Just a simple ask. It's completely free. Jesse, let's get into this. It's time. Nope, that's not it. Let's see that. Man, let me try that again. Jesse, it's time to get into this. It's time. Joshua Roy has been sent down to the Laval Rocket, and that simply means that Patrik Laine's debut must be imminent. Unless the Habs do something completely off the wall, Patrik Laine is almost certainly going to be playing against the New York Islanders tomorrow night on Tuesday, December 3rd. And even Patrik Laine himself posted a tweet. Big week coming up. Or not a tweet, sorry, this is on his Instagram. Hopefully Father Andre is a hockey fan. I believe it's actually Friar Andre, Patrick, but it is what it is. Our boy Patrik Laine, Jesse. We got Puckpedia putting him on the third line with Kirby, Dach, and Josh Anderson. That is a big line. I actually kind of like the chemistry on that line, but I don't know where he's going to start. Do you have any idea? Oh, sorry. Before I get into that, Doug Saylor sent a super chat I missed for a second. 279. Gotta go. Have a good stream, guys. Thank you so much, Doug, again, for tuning in. We got to give the love to the fans when they show support like that. Jesse, do you see this maybe being the line here? Patrik Laine with Kirby, Dach, and Josh Anderson? Or are we going to see Laine even higher up? I know we got to ease him in slowly, but I'm beyond excited right now, and I'm setting my expectations unrealistically high, but I also won't be upset if it takes him a while to get into the groove.
I'm on board with that. I'm okay. You know, we're setting our expectations high from the beginning because we know him. We're so excited to see this. As for where he's going to be in the lineup, he has been getting some reps in with Suzuki, with Caufield. So, you know, it's interesting to see him being placed here on the third line because generally who they're kind of training with before kind of coming back in the lineup is who they will be paired with and be playing with there. So I expect to see him on that first line. I'm not going to lie that, you know, I kind of thought going in that maybe they'd want to have him at that second line just to kind of get his legs underneath him a little bit more. And then you kind of get him. But maybe they got those high expectations. They see how good he's been looking in camp. This is why we're so excited. We know Habs Digest Station. You guys have been watching as well, those clips. Like, he's looking very smooth, deceptive, extremely skilled. And the shot is there, folks. It was a knee injury. The shot is completely undisturbed throughout this whole time. It is ready to go right now, you know? So I feel that, you know, for me right now is like, I would kind of like to see him on that first line, you know, first or second for me, definitely there with Laine. I'm not going to be upset either way. You got to try him on that first line, I think, to definitely see how he is with Cole and Nick, our two best players on this team so far this year. But I think getting that second wave of scoring somehow, it would be something interesting to look at. But Josh, I don't know, like, I just want Marty to start locking with, especially with Laine back now. I'm really hoping we can just lock down on some lines, even going back to last year, to kind of get a little bit more consistency. I find that's an underrated thing that I think is on Marty's periphery that he knows. Now, it maybe just with the personnel not being there, that's why he's juggling around so much. I'm really hoping, you know, that we're looking to kind of lock down some lines a little bit further now.
Like, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, even going into last season, about how sticking guys with each other is really good for building chemistry for the future. I mean, we genuinely thought that Suzuki Caufield Slaf line, especially after they really got rolling, was going to be a line that was inseparable, a line that was going to be the future of the Montreal Canadiens. So they were getting as many reps in as possible to really build that chemistry together. And while Juraj Slafkovsky has played by far his best hockey with that line, he's been booted off that line. And he played a bit with Suzuki, with Caufield on a different line, and now Caufield's back in the top with Newhook. And while Newhook's stats this season have not been good, he has 5 goals, 0 assists in 24 games, and is a -10. He's looked pretty good with this top line, especially in that Rangers game. They were generating a lot of dangerous chances. In fact, they had some incredible metrics in terms of shot percentage and scoring opportunity percentage when they were up against the Rangers' top defensive pairing there with Keandre Miller. And like, that's the thing. This line's been rolling, but if we can find something that is just set for the future, Jesse, I think you're right. And when we look at this line, like, we know Gallagher, or this lineup, I should say, we know Gallagher and Anderson are going to be around for a few years. I don't see them really being moved, not with those contracts, not for a couple of years, for now at least. Dvorak's probably going to be gone by next season. Jake Evans, who knows, right? He's a UFA. Will he be traded at the deadline? Will he leave for another team this offseason? Really, the top 6 of, like, guys that we know are going to be around, it's like Caufield, Suzuki, Newhook, Slafkovsky, Dach, and Laine. Like, I see a world where we kind of start rocking lines like that. I mean, Slaf, Dach, Laine, to me, feels like a really good line fit-wise. It's a massive line. Slaf plays a fairly physical game. He wins a lot of board battles. Dach and Slaf are both more playmakers, though with Slaf also having a good shot. They're both big. They can create opportunities, and Patrik Laine is the sniper of that line who can make his way to the dirty areas or even just to the hash marks to let one rip. I think that's a line we'll see very soon, Jesse. Slaf, Dach, Laine. Well, I mean, I know right now we got Laine and Slaf both playing the left wing, but, you know, they can adjust. I don't know if they're both, like, either of them are maybe less comfortable, more comfortable playing on one wing or the other, but we've seen Slaf obviously opposite Caufield before. I don't see any reason why we can't see Slaf opposite Laine on a wing, on a line with Dach.
It's an interesting line because of the size and the skill, so you have to try it. You have no choice. But going forward, for me, it's Slaf or Laine on that top line, or by like that. Nobody else on the Montreal Canadiens deserves to play with Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki other than Patrik Laine or Slafkovsky at this point in time. And I'm a Newhook fan. You know that about me. I love grinders. I love those players that bring that energy and everything else like that. And Newhook, it's because I think once he gets on that third line, he hasn't played enough on that third line, where for me, that's where all of his points are at. With Laine being back, Newhook will get pushed to that third line eventually. That's where he'll get his points. That's where he'll start getting cooking. I think Martin St. Louis will see that success that he starts to get once he's inevitably on that line there, because that's where the favorable matchups are from. And as a result, he'll stick there.
I got a big question for you, Jesse. Are you ready for my question?
Yeah, let's go.
Is Patrik Laine going to debut on the PP1?
Yes, absolutely. You have to. If Kirby Dach is on the PP1 right now, despite all of the difficulties and he looks good on the PP. Like Dach is a good power play player because he's fairly composed, makes good passes. For sure, we'd like to see a little bit more points, but like the power play hasn't been the issue with the Montreal Canadiens. I could very much, see him replacing a Dach on the PP1 kind of here going forward. But absolutely, Laine, it was a mistake even going back to the preseason of not having him on the PP. We won't get into all the things that led into him getting injured. We're not going into that rabbit hole. I've had problems with it for a minute. I've decided to let it go upon his return here. But yeah, you gotta have Laine. This is the most proven goal scorer on this team. He has us to be on the PP1.
Yeah, this guy, he's so unbelievable, really, when he's on his game. And I agree. Now, obviously, Laine's favorite spot is where Caufield plays on the PP1. But Caufield's been doing a good job of getting some goals down deep. Caufield can score from the slot as well. Like, we can just move these guys around. Like, I think in my head, I had this idea that I don't want Laine and Caufield on the same power play unit because then they'll both just be in the same spot. But that's not true. Like, these guys can rotate around. They can be shooting threats from absolutely anywhere on the ice. And if you have Slav, who's a one-time threat from the right side, but who will also play a lot in front of the net, and you have Laine and Caufield both occupying some of the middle or the left side of the ice, you're terrified if you're a defense. Not to mention if you have Lane Hudson running things up top, and then even if you do have Hudson up top, and then you have Laine, and then you have Caufield, and you have Suzuki, and you have Slav, you look at the second power play unit, and all of a sudden, you still have Mike Matheson, who, as much as some people really like to hate on Matheson, the dude is still a solid power play player. Like, this dude was a power play merchant last year. We forget he had a 60-point season with a lot of those coming on the power play. And you have Matheson, then you have Kirby Dach, and you have a guy like Emil Heineman, who was also a shooting threat on that second power play. I agree with that, you maybe want to have some balance in PP1 or PP2, but if you can put out like an all-star squad of power play one merchants with Slav, with Laine, with Caufield, with Suzuki, with Hudson or Matheson, whoever Marty decides to go with, I think you got to do it because that alone is just going to be so terrifying to so many other teams, especially with how many times, Jesse, Montreal seems to go on minute and a half stretches in that first power play with that same unit.
You have to do it. That's what all the best teams in the NHL do. They put all their best players on their PP1 because exactly how you mentioned, like there's definitely the scoring threat, but there's also the kind of the mental part of the game where you get on a PP1, you know what's coming on the ice, and they're just dominating and kind of, passing all over the puck. And even that just has an effect of kind of getting the opposition on their heels, getting maybe the goalie to kind of question themselves a little bit. The last thing you want to do is, take a penalty and know that there's going to be a dominant power play coming in on your end. They're going to be making crisp passes. They're going to be getting their momentum going and everything else like that. So I feel like you absolutely do. You wait till the PP1, you put your best players, and from there, from the PP2, obviously we got some options to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, like the big thing, I see someone mention it in chat too. The big thing too is, Jesse, we can't get too ahead of ourselves as well. Dach, I guess a little bit because he's still coming off knee surgery, so we still have to wait and be patient with him. But Patrik Laine has not played over 60 games in the season in, I think, since 2021-22, or maybe it was even 2021. Maybe it was even before that. Like, Laine has not had a fully healthy season in a long time. Laine has been injured for multiple seasons in a row. He's not a guy who's going to come back and be super impactful right away. This guy needs time to get back up to game speed. Guys that miss a week, sometimes they take a couple games to get into game speed. It might take Laine months, but that's the beauty of this season, Jesse, is we have time to experiment a bit. This team is, as of right now, not ready to be in the mix. Could things change if some good fortunes happen? Maybe. We don't know. But the good thing is, like, that expectation to be a winning team is not necessarily there yet, which gives Laine a lot of freedom, gives the Habs a lot of freedom to mess around with lines, do everything they can to get Laine healthy and ready to go. And just another thing, like if he's not producing for the first, like if we're 3-4 weeks in, say we get to the new year, we get to January 1st, January 2nd, and Laine has like 3 points in 10 games or something, there's no need to panic because there's so much time for him to figure it out. It's going to take him a while to warm up. And that's the biggest thing, Jesse. I'm just beyond excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Because right now, we can't go anywhere but up. Like, he's not going to hurt the team in any way, especially not with the way his shot is. So I'm just so happy to finally see a little shakeup, a little spark for this team. And I think it's something that we really need.
It's so true. Absolutely so needed. And a very fair comment all the same. Like, the most logical outcome is that it will take Patrik Laine a little bit of time to shake off the rust. Lord knows we've seen how much time it's taken for Kirby Dach. We know that these knee injuries can sometimes be rough ones a little bit. At that same time is that Patrik Laine scored a goal in the last game that he was injured. I just think with that skill that he has, you then combine that with the willingness that he has to play, because the skill's always been there, but sometimes we've kind of questioned the willingness from Laine. For me, it's just pure mathematics. Like a player that skill, you're then going to bring the willingness where he wants to play. He's been out for a long time. You got to remember, having a stint in the players assistance program. He's changed a lot of things about his life. Like hockey's really important for him. Having that amount of skill and now kind of having that willingness, I think just putting that together, I expect it might take a little bit of time, but you know what? Forget that. I'm putting Laine down for at least a point tomorrow night.
I would love it. Imagine he scores his first goal. The Bell Center will absolutely explode. Same thing with Lane Hutson. Like, what about a goal from each of them? There's going to be this energy. Remember that energy we saw in the preseason where the fans were just roaring every time Hutson or Laine touched the puck. It's not just Habs fans that are going to be roaring for these guys. Fans across the NHL cannot wait to see Patrik Laine come back and play. He has the love of everyone. He has the love of Habs Digest, and I'm sure all you fans, it's going to be amazing. And by the way, guys, just be nice to each other in the chat here. We're all here to be friends. And I know not everyone, it's okay to disagree about certain things. Just relax with some of the stuff you're sending. You're not going to mute anyone or anything like that. Just behave yourselves. But Jesse, this is an exciting week. We got games Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then we got prime Monday Night Hockey against one of my favorite teams to watch in some aspects. They're not very good. Just something about the Ducks. Maybe it's just their uniforms. I'm kind of excited to play them next Monday on Prime Hockey. But maybe we'll do a little pregame stream or something for that. Any final things, Jesse? I think we're gonna probably end it there, guys. And if anyone got any more super chats or anything they want to send in, we'll read them. But man, yeah, this is a fun stream. I'm super excited to get Patrik Laine back.
For sure. So much fun always. Lots of amazing things looking forward to. And so much fun doing these lives. Like, Josh, I know we have so much fun kind of working together doing these videos. But isn't it just so much nicer when we get to bring, the audience, get the fans in it? And because a lot of ways when you guys are asking questions, we're all kind of doing this together. So, we really look forward to it. We appreciate all the support as always. So, so thank you guys once again.
Awesome. Yeah, seriously. Thank you, everyone. We got Top Corner Tag and first time catching a live stream. Good stuff, guys. And then we've got another one telling someone to read a book. Yeah, you know what? It's okay to disagree, guys. Enjoy your conversation over there, but I think that'll do it. By the way, just one thing. There's a lot of you still watching our videos. Half of you guys are not subscribed. We're at the end of the stream. I know a lot of you have probably left, but if you're still here and you enjoyed what you're watching right now and you haven't hit the button, it's completely free. We got daily Habs content. We have had it for a couple of years. We plan to have it well into the future. So if you like this kind of stuff, hit the button down below. Get notified of all our uploads, weekly live streams, daily videos. This is your home for all things Habs. Thank you all for tuning in. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel like you always do. We really appreciate all your support. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.